photo booth?
Do you know what I'm in? I'm in my self-tape corner.
Fantastic.
Yes,
So you take lots of.
it's a tricky one. So
Do you paint?
No, I'm an actress.
Just in case I
Brilliant.
And
But
this
yeah,
is where I painted the house.
Well, listen, let's talk a little bit because when I photograph people, one of the main things today in my attic, again, still after 7 months, I'd like to introduce you to Nadirah-X. Now, Nadirah, I met, I don't know, probably about 2 or 3 months ago. And the minute she came on and the minute I saw her face, I knew that she had a lot to say. And I just love her words. She's been a little bit of a therapist for me. And because she's in Los Angeles and because that means that it's late night for me, it's kind of like I eat, I have a drink, and then I get to talk to Nadirah. How nice is that? And her words are so special that I've nicknamed her the Bard. So here you go. Hello, Bard. How are you?
How are you, friend? I'm well. I'm
Good.
doing well. Today's a good day because I have three, and then Max will surely become one of my favorite people soon. So I'm talking to all my favorite people right now. It was such a task to get these other two guys in the room. You wouldn't believe it. So
No,
I'm gonna just go right. I'm I'm gonna go right into introducing them. So we're gonna go Jamaica. Peter Lloyd is in Jamaica in his backyard, which he has to show off on us. Now, Peter Lloyd is a Jamaican icon, literally. He is a writer, a director, a script writer. He's produced several plays. He's been in 60 movies. Um, and he's such an incredible human being. I mean, I could go on and on. The accolades are endless. And he's in Jamaica under that lovely, one of those lovely trees, which I can't partake of any of the fruits. So I'm feeling a bit, you know, like I'm gonna move on now to introducing Chris. Peter, meet Chris, because you hear me talk about Chris all the time, and Chris, meet Peter. Chris Taylor is an incredible writer and painter who I met via some connection with Dave Stewart. And one day, 3 years ago, I just kind of FaceTime called him, just out the blue. And we've been friends ever since. And we've done so much music together. So I'm trying to keep the introductions very light.
and they were
'Cause,
very.
And also, happy belated birthday, Chris. Chris's birthday was on the 27th. So happy birthday. And also, his new album Love Coma is out. That's the plug. That's my plug for Chris
Now,
today.
Nadirah, I asked you to be a co-host, but don't take it over, for goodness sake. Come on.
All right, I'm done now.
What was really interesting about your introduction to me was that you told us what these guys do. And when you got to the end of Peter, you said, and he's a great human being. Now, I want to know about the human beings in both of you, okay? Because actually, a lot of what we tend to portray of ourselves is the image that goes with our creativity, and we translate that into our music or in our work or in our painting. But do we find the real truth? So I'm going to ask Peter a really difficult question. Who are you, Peter?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a good question. I think more than anything else, I'm a father. That's probably the most important thing to me in the world. And I'm Rastafarian, as you can probably tell, meaning I I try to live my life as honestly as I can, and I try to live my life with nature, which is why I'm out in my backyard. Um, I I try to be compassionate. I'm not always, and I think I strive more so than anything else to listen. I discovered about 10 years ago that we talk a lot as human beings, but we really do not listen. And which is why we have all the stuff that's happening, which is why artists I think are very important, because even if artists don't listen, I think we absorb what's happening around us, we process it, and then we kind of, depending on how you look at it, we either regurgitate it or we emanate it. It's one of the two. But for me, I'm a father and I'm a lover of all human beings, all beings, all. I don't care what your race, your color, your class, your creed, your religion. I've traveled a lot and I've come to realize that people, in essence, whether they are wealthy and famous or they are, you know, the average human being, a term I hate because I think we're all actually average. I think people all have the same fundamental desires, like the same desires. We want to be loved, we want to be accepted, we don't want to have to pay taxes. And it's the truth. And I think we want to be in a situation where at the end of the process, at the end of our journey, whenever we make our transition, people remember us for being good human beings who contributed. I know that's a very elaborate answer
No,
to a very good
it's
question.
a great answer, and I was stuck on the moment you said you were a listener, because that's really important. I think there's too many people who are trying to portray something about themselves which is oppose what you're saying. By listening, you are creating your pause and you're allowing people to see the expression in your face as you listen. And I think that's really important. Chris, what about you? Who are you?
Okay, if I'm sincere, which I'm going to try to be as sincere as possible, this is what this is what I've told my wife in my most vulnerable state, and now I'm going to share it with the three of you, lovely people. I've sometimes when I'll turn to my wife and I'll be like, I feel like I'm just this scared little kid that's trapped inside of this body that has grown, but I still feel like at my core I'm going, I have no idea how to make it through this life. I look at it and I look at what men are supposed to be, and I feel like I don't know if I have that kind of thing inside of me. But how I've channeled that vulnerability, fear, uncertainty, ever since I can remember, has always been through either art or music. And that's been sort of a protection from the outside world. And it has been my passion and my, almost like a shield and a sword at the same time. So that's who I really am. And I've just been able to somehow go through 51 years of life and create stuff along the way, whether it's something musical, something artistic, or when it comes to relationships and create beautiful bonds between people. So yeah, that's the short version, I think, of who I am at this very moment.
And Nadirah, come on, your turn.
It
Who are
froze.
you?
Oh, you're back?
Yeah.
It's frozen. Oh, here we go. You said Alistair? It froze for a while. I just heard Nadira.
I just said, who are you?
Oh. Wow, first and foremost, I'm a human being. That's it. That's how I see myself. I'm a part of this grand scheme of things on a journey trying to find out why I'm here. Why are we here? And are we here by accident or by design? Those are the daily journeys. So it's very simple, I think. I'm a human being first. I'm a lover of people. And everything else follows, actually. My art, my parents, my child, everything else follows being a human being. It used to be upside down. It's like my parents, then I had a child, and then it was everything was poured onto her, and in an effort to also have her find her place. So that became also its journey. But I'm on the journey of Nadira now, and how I find myself will also be an example for whoever's around me.
Yeah, it's
Makes
really
sense.
interesting because in photography, I look at people's faces, and very often, uh, especially on a kind of a Zoom photo session, when a stranger comes to the screen for the very first time, I can pretty much tell what demeanor they are in through their facial expression and their aura. There's some kind of an aura about them, which they can't hide. And what was really interesting that you said, Chris, was that you use other things. And actually, we use style, don't we? We all have our styles. We all make a decision that we're going to look a certain way, length of hair. I mean, when I was first left school, I had hair down to here. It was just the era of longer hair. But it's a statement. But actually, there's nothing in the statement other than who you are underneath all of that. And what I loved about what you said, Chris, was that idea that you can show your vulnerability, because that's so important. And for all of those people who never do, they're kind of trapped in this world of falsehood in a way, because they're always trying to project themselves in a way which they want attention, but they want attention not for who they are, but for what they do, or for the way they look, or for whatever. It's the classic. It's the classic. Beautiful man meets beautiful girl. Across the room, they look at each other and they say, "Wow, I love." And then they come closer, and then he opens his mouth, or she opens her mouth, and there's no connection anymore, because there's just something that isn't expressed. There's something that you're expecting of that image. And I suppose, it's that good old word wisdom, isn't there? There's a really nice quote on your Instagram, Peter, which I wanted to talk to you about. It says, "The fear of failure is in fact the fear of success. So to achieve success, most have to endure repeated failure." And you talk about the growth of experience and wisdom. So at what stage did you think you were wise then, Peter?
I know I'm not wise. I know, it's very strange. As a teenager, I had two very strange desires on becoming a man. And one of them I can express freely here was I prayed for wisdom, which is a strange thing for a child to pray for. But I kind of realized that I was not the wisest human being. And I had the blessing and the affliction of a father who was a remarkable human being. Always knew what to say, always gave you the right advice. And I wanted to be like that person. So I prayed for wisdom, the other thing we will not discuss here, but I prayed for wisdom. And thing is, I realized as I grew older that perhaps the only mark of some degree of intelligence is understanding that you have no intelligence. Because wisdom presumes that you know many things. And one of the beautiful things that Chris said that struck me, and I'm going to write it somewhere, is he said his art is a sword and a shield, which is a really interesting choice of words. Because many of us have a sword and a shield, but we never identify what the thing is. So for me, wisdom became, and it still is, the thing that I pursue. I have 2 girls. And for reasons that I've never quite understood, many persons ask me for advice, which is confusing, and I'm going to be honest. But I think that the thing that, as human beings, the thing that could elevate us to that next place is the concept of wisdom. And I'm kind of at this point beginning to think wisdom comes from listening, from self-reflection, and from just being honest. Because we are taught, Alistair, to never be honest with ourselves. We are told, you said it, as a photographer, you see, people see this and they see this and they see this, but they can't see my soul. And we are taught, and Chris alluded to this, as men in particular, that our vulnerability is a weakness. And as I've gotten older, I realize that actually our vulnerability is our strength. It's the thing that you should play to. So I think I strive constantly for wisdom. I'm still doing that. I've spent literally, at one point I thought I was seeking fame, and then I realized I'm not. And then at one point I thought I was seeking fortune, and I realized I'm not. I want wisdom, true wisdom. I want to be able to say, if we do this, we can solve most of our problems. I think I have one part of that equation, which is if we all listen. You know, you believe in Muhammad, nice. You believe in Christ, nice. You believe in no one, nice. Instead of my imposing my will on you, let me close my eyes and say, so why do you believe in Muhammad? Why do you believe in Christ? Why do you believe in no one? And maybe if we start to listen, then we'll be able to walk away from that conversation and say, you know what, Alistair, I agree to disagree, but I respect your wishes. I think that basic, innate, almost wild aspect of it. You know, that thing where you want to control and you want to be in control of everything. I think our truest power will start when we, as human beings, when we let go. When we just let go, just let go. When we concede, like Chris said, shield, sword. Because we are all human beings. We're all vulnerable. We are all terrified of, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know that I've had moments when I've had to look in the mirror and say, well, that belly is getting a little big. You know, those are the moments none of us want anyone else to share it. So I kind of think I have a community of people that I communicate with constantly, and I tell these people it is imperative that you spend 5 minutes each day on yourself, not your work, not your family, not your beliefs, on you. It's imperative that Alistair and Nadirah and Peter and Chris spend 5 minutes of each day loving on us, because we desperately need that. You know, we are all vulnerable. We are all terrified. We all, I mean, I've worked with some very, very powerful and successful people, and I realized when we were able to speak, you know, like when someone is on a little weed, or when someone has had a few drinks, or when someone is now relaxed, I realized, hey, Denzel Washington is a normal person. You know, Alistair is a normal person. Nadirah is a normal. We are all vulnerable beings pretending not to be vulnerable. So I think for me, the equation at this point, maybe I live another 100 years, is my first part of the equation for wisdom is listen. listen. Just start listening. You know,
Yeah.
instead of seeing the differences, just listen.
Go, Chris. Yeah.
What was that last question?
No, I was going to say it because you were responding, I think, to Peter, and I wanted you to, and actually, you know, ask each other things too, because that's the nature of a dinner table.
Yeah.
You know, I'll have the avocado. Thanks, Peter. Is that an avocado tree behind?
And a planted the ackee tree behind. I have a huge backyard.
Beautiful.
I love plants.
Yes, he does.
I
I
have,
just want some
Why
of
do
the
you say
mangoes.
that?
I have a huge attic.
I realize that. Chris,
Sorry.
can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Why did you say sword and shield? That really struck me when you used that.
I think having been, like, I moved from New York to Texas when I was about 15 years old, back in the 80s. So I moved away from my mother and my that side of my family, and I came to live with my father, whom I never had met before. I didn't really know prior to this moment. And then I was thrust into this world of you know, super highly religious, sort of think of the mid 80s Christian movement. It was a very fear-based movement, afraid of anything that wasn't of the church, very separating what, you know, the church and the secular world, which was, I had nothing to do with any of that prior to this moment. So now I was in that world, and then I had this sort of physical abuse at home, and then mental abuse at home. And the Bible itself was sort of used as a weapon. I was not only punished physically, but then I would have to write Bible verses, certain Bible verses, like hundreds and hundreds of times, so it would be ingrained in my mind. And so it was this very strange, like, I went from skipping rocks on Lake Ontario, you know, until I was 15 years old, to all of a sudden thrust going to church 3 or 4 times a week, and then living at a very kind of dark, oppressive home. So I'm giving you a little bit of a backdrop because I felt like I was on my own. I felt like I no longer had a mother that I could go to, and this father, my biological father, I had no connection with. And I felt trapped. Like, here I am in Texas. I'm too young to kind of start a life on my own. And so ever since I was a kid, it's always been about the arts. It was always about that for me. I always gravitated towards it. And the minute, you know, I learned how to put my fingers on the 3 little black dots to make the E chord, and the minute I learned a couple of guitar chords, I felt like that was my escape. That, me knowing how to play those chords, it wasn't even about, like, I could never learn other people's songs. Like, I'd try to learn, you know, tunes on the radio, and I'd get 3 chords in, and I just end up writing my own song instead of finishing learning that song. It was always about expressing myself in that way. And so to me, the more connected I got with the guitar, with the songwriting, with the painting, it was like it was self-discovery. And as soon as I started to discover myself, I just sort of realized what kind of person I was and who I was becoming. And the reason it was, to me, a sword and a shield is because it protected me against a very oppressive household. The arts did, the music did. Whether it was me listening to other people's music, I would get lost in the headphones and listening to different music. And it was usually something from overseas. It was usually not American music. It was something European, and it would literally transport me to another place. And the sword was when I finally started to go out, play my live shows, do art shows, create art and put it into the world, you know. It was my way of saying, you know, of sort of cutting through all of the darkness and oppression that was on me when I was a child. It was just that. So to me, it was like a protection and a way to cut through all of the darkness. And you know, my wife will always say, and some of my close friends would say, like, it's a miracle that you didn't fall into the whole, you know, drinking and drug trap, you know, like to an excess to where it's like a medicated Band-Aid that you can never fully heal from. And it is kind of a miracle. I never, for some reason, never went down that route. I just decided my drug of choice was creating something. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all began for me, and why I probably why I'm still doing it now, you know, why I'm still because I still have that same like childlike passion for creating something. Every day I try to create something new, something different, whether the world sees it or not, you know.
It's interesting because I was very similar. I kind of left school. My parents were abroad and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just got myself a job. I was good at sports. I worked at a bank. They had a great sports ground. They had somewhere for me to stay. You make all the decisions. And then you start to learn about life and about all sorts of things. And you start to meet some people that you like, and you fall in love with people, and you do all of the things that you should do. And then I kind of looked at them all and I thought, yeah, but you're not happy, are you? And I then left that and didn't know what I wanted to do. But actually, what I did know what I wanted to do was to give myself the time to think about that, to listen. And so I went to college. You know, I went to college late after having done work, and I did a degree course in photography, film, and television. Now, that bit of paper isn't going to get me a job. It's the photography that will get me the job. But what I soon learned was that as I walked out and did lots of street photography, that it wasn't even the camera and it wasn't even the final image. It was the people that I was in love with. And then that just develops, and then that just becomes your drug. So I'm the same. I never found identity with any kind of, in fact, the only time that I've ever been encouraged to have drugs is just recently. Nadirah-X is sending me some. And I'm 64 years old.
Lord have mercy. This man have me down as a drug pusher.
On that
okay,
note,
I mean, you gotta make something happen during COVID, right?
on that note, shall we just all assume that Nadirah-X is our dealer?
Yeah, you know, Chris is gonna be here in a couple of weeks, so
Well, that's going to be the perfect time to get Chris onto drugs, then, isn't it? You can leave your guitar behind.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm here just trying to spread some love. Like, you know, this relaxes me. Have some of this, you know, and you know, Peter, it's the herbs, so I try to share the love as much as I can. Get everyone to relax. And Alistair and also Max, who's on here, is just having, you know, they're dealing with a lot, and I'm just trying to spread the love, you know. And so I have a package here.
Whoa.
I'm just trying to send it off. You know, that's the first thing he asked me today, though, Alistair. He didn't say, how are you? He said, did you send my package yet?
You got me hooked. You got me hooked now.
That's funny.
So listen. What do you think, Nadirah?
Sorry, Mike.
From what you know, I mean, you know, you are the beauty amongst us all. So tell me, you know, what do you feel about what the boys have said in terms of vulnerability? Is
Oh,
that
very
attractive?
impactful.
Is that attractive to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think anyone at all that can tap into that and express themselves from a very deep, intimate place. I mean, that's what I do with my music and my writing. I'm always very vulnerable. Um, and you'll know by the song I'm doing or by the words I'm writing where I'm at. I'm very open and very vulnerable in my art. And in many ways I can relate to what Chris is saying, not from the household point of view, but honing that craft that allows you to express yourself as a young person. And I was very fortunate to have people around me to facilitate that. I've known Peter for quite some years, and ever since we've met, he's always been encouraging and facilitating, and listens to my music and listens to, you know, random offbeat things I'll send him. And I know I'm going to get an honest answer from him, and that's very important to have around you. And I've been had that my entire career, so I've always been able to be vulnerable and not worry about what anyone thought about what I was saying.
And what I also love
Actually,
about your the images that I've seen that have been done of you is that there's no, you know, one thing about the profession of music or acting or whatever, it's all about the image, isn't it? This idea that you create a styled image that goes on a cover of something or other, and it says this is me, but actually it's not you at all. It is just the
right.
image of you. And I think that that's something that with my photography, and bear in mind that, you know, I was just a young kid who was suddenly being given the chance to photograph a whole bunch of famous people. And you know, and I was earning good money from it, and you just go for it, and you don't really think about what you're doing. You're just creating and creating and creating until you suddenly think, you know what, I've got a responsibility with this. Because, you know, I think that young women have a really rough deal nowadays. Media are terrible to them because they portray this image of the big stars as being, this is who you've got to be. You've got to look like them. You have to be them. You can't be overweight. You can't do this. You can't have a nose like that. And it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you've just got to allow people to be themselves and to celebrate themselves and who they are, because they may never reach what Peter was saying, you know, when there's nothing perfect about us. We are just all
Yeah.
normal. And, you know, within the industry, we have horrible terms like VIP, very important person. What's that?
Yeah.
You know, what is
Yeah.
that? So does that mean that
Mm.
the girl who served me at the supermarket and who's got a job and gave me a great smile and asked me how I was, and I asked her, you know, how late she's working tonight and everything, does that mean she's not very important because she does that?
Mm.
And that's the problem with this kind of celebrity image, success image. It's all about, I want to be like them. I want to be like them, because we're encouraged to be like them, when actually we should be encouraged all the time to be ourselves and to
So
Absolutely.
That's sad though, because I realize when younger artists approach me and they ask my advice, I normally I try to tell them that the persons who I would consider mega successful that I've worked with became successful because at their core they were who they are. Anything else that was added by a record label or image consultant, or you know, you all know what I'm talking. Has to, if there's any durability or longevity for that artist, has to be based on who the artist actually is. Which is why sometimes the pop culture which worships youth sometimes does a disservice to some of these very young artists, because at 15, 16, 17, 18, let's face it, none of us here knew who the hell we were. We're just evolving. we're just getting an idea of who we are. So when a record label says to you, you know what, I had the experience of a record label trying to turn me into I'm trying to give you the term. They wanted me to make me a genuine type. There's this artist, an R&B sex symbol artist called
So
Jen.
sex symbol. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my first album, I had no shirt on, which till today I'm very embarrassed about that.
It's a really
It
good
was,
cover, Peter. Stop complaining about it.
yeah, but I don't like that cover because that's not who I
I know.
am. But I realized that the record label, they I mean, they're trying to sell records. I get that. But if even within our world, it becomes all about something that is not real and that's unattainable, then when the artist discovers themselves, which inevitably happens, you're either going to have an artist who's going to explode or implode, because that self may be in absolute contrast to this image that's been, I mean, my team used to be upset with me because, and Nadira knows this, I've had situations in Jamaica where I'm on the road and I'm going to meet the Prime Minister of the island, who's kind of like our president. And I'm going to stop and talk to the security guard for an hour. Because to me, I see no, and this is really who I've always been. Probably this is how my parents brought me up, but I do not see a difference between the security guard and the Prime Minister. They're people. They're just people.
Yeah.
One may be maybe a little bit more financially secure, but they're still just people. And how do we counter that in telling? Because the internet has been a great thing, but it's also been a nightmare. Because you're right. The internet now tells my daughter. I have a 14-year-old, and I tell her, no social media. Daddy, why? Because those girls don't look like that. Nobody looks like that. That's going to mess with your image of self, and I don't want that to happen. Sorry, I don't want that to happen. I want you to have a sense of who you are. When my girls were younger, I would tell. We were fortunate that we were able to hire people to help take care of our children, and I would tell these beautiful human beings, look, if she wants to wear pink, green, yellow, and anything mixed up, let her wear it. Let her discover herself. I've always been the kind of person who, with children, children will scream and carry on. And I'm like, let them scream and carry on. I would tell my daughters, and I tell all the children that because I've had a lot of children live with, and I say to all of them, question everything. Question everyone, because, and I don't know how you all feel about this, but I think every human being has an agenda, consciously or unconsciously. And you have to decide if that agenda is in your best interest or not in your best interest. So I kind of think to counteract some of the impositions of the internet, we have to start teaching our children and our youngsters question. Ask why. Okay, you believe that Christ is a savior. Why? You believe that Muhammad is a savior. Why? Why should I wear pink? Why should I wear green? I think these are questions that are necessary because it will give those children a better sense of who they are. And if we have more rounded children, we'll have better adults. I mean, this is just my theory, that if we have better children, we'll have better adults. If we have better adults, we'll have a better worldview. I don't know if you get I don't know if I'm expressing this correctly, guys.
Yeah, you are. And
Yeah, you are.
The reality is that we're all still children.
Yeah.
We just realize as we get older that we kind of lose that idea of, I often say in my photography, if someone is over posing or wants to be styled or turns up with too much makeup, I just say, you've just shown me the peacock in you. Go back to the womb. Be the child again.
Oh my
And
God.
You know, that to me is really important, because it's the moment when we wake up in the morning and I wonder, you know, the first person that we see in the morning isn't our partners, our wives, our husbands, our lovers, our drug dealers. It is, it is, sorry, Nadirah, it's, I just drugged up myself. I'm all drugged up now. It's actually ourselves. We look at ourselves, you know, that thing called the mirror in the bathroom is the first thing that we look at. And
Absolutely.
and we kind of look at it in a way that we just, because it's like Groundhog Day, it happens every morning, we just let it happen. And we might make a judgment. Oh, yeah, I look all right today. Oh, Jesus, I don't look that good today. You know, whatever we might say, but actually,
Wow.
what's going through your head, that thought is probably the most private, vulnerable you that you don't share. So then what do? We prepare ourselves like a peacock to go out the front door to present ourselves to the outside world. We put clothes on, we make choices, we brush our hair, we, you know, oh, I'm going to get rid of the beard this time, you know, whatever it happens to be. But ultimately, what we take with us in here is the child in us. So we're frightened of situations, we're emotional about situations, we are always children. We just find different ways of expressing ourselves as adults, normally very badly. So you see, Chris, you in a way, you know, you could be an easy rider. You know, there is that kind of image of bohemian about you, and whether that is you, I don't know. But actually, I suspect that there's a kind of a solitude about yourself that you enjoy. But at the same time, it troubles you.
Good, yeah. Interesting perception. You know, as far as style goes, I'm yeah, there's a part of me that's always loved, you know, I come from, like, I totally dug the David Bowies and the Lou Reeds, and I've always,
I love that word, Doug. Sorry. You guys in words. Groovy and Doug. We're back
Groovy,
to the aren't we?
Groovy. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the groovy story in a minute, Nadirah. I'm sorry, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
No. I mean, I just come from, again, it was like a fashion to me was wrapped up in rock and roll. So when I started playing these sort of seedy little rock and roll clubs around Texas with my band, we would it was very kind of, it was the early 90s, so it was a kind of a violent scene that we found ourselves in, and we were these sort of fresh face, we came from the church culture, but we really didn't fit in the church culture, and we were just trying to, like, write really killer, deep little rock and roll songs that we could kind of take onto these stages. And I had to figure out how to protect myself. And you'd have a lot of kids that were the shaved their heads, wore the Doc Martens, very aggressive, angry type. And then you had the goth kids with the dark clothes and that whole scene. And we were sort of thrust in the middle of this because nobody quite knew what to make of our band and our music. And we were always put on these bills with these kind of like real hard rock groups, and we'd show up and we're like, what in the, like, this is not who we are, but we want to play. So let's just go, be fearless about it and go do it. So, you know, I grew my hair out to about here, dyed it blue black, you know, I wore the eyeshadow and the fingernail polish and was like, this is a protection against, again, my vulnerability. But I just treated my hair, my look, my image, my clothing like a kind of, you know, again, a shield. And it was an artistic statement. I thought, I'm just going to be, my body is going to be the blank canvas. And I'm going to, and even the guys in my own band, and you know, they'd all show up in like jeans and tennis shoes, and I'd be like this avant-garde lead singer guy that nobody quite knew what to make of me. But that was just the way I sort of worked my way through it. Now I just want to find the most comfortable thing, put it around me, and get on with the day, you know. And if people think I have a little bit of style left, I'm fine with that. And you know, but like I said, I have clothes that are all painted up and painted on, and I'm just I want to think less about this and more about what I can create in the day to make myself catch fire, you know, on the inside a little bit.
And
You're carrying the flame. You're carrying the flame.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I'm also really interested in that kind of idea that you know, Jamaica has a very distinct, cool style, doesn't it? How does that happen? How do you guys get so cool?
I you know what?
Drugs.
It's
The
kind
drugs.
of strange. It's kind of strange, but that's this. I've heard this question many times. I think I kind of think Jamaicans. Here's a distinct thing about Jamaica. When, and I don't know if this has been Nadirah's experience. When I tour Europe, when we do Europe, the reggae circuit in Europe, I find Europeans are very giving and very passionate about the arts, about artists. So if they like you, I mean, like I have maybe 300 or 400 people who follow me around Europe when I tour Europe. They literally just follow myself and the guys. What Jamaicans are like is that I think from birth, every Jamaican knows he or she is a superstar. Like they know this. They come out of the womb knowing this. So you will see the equivalent of, like you see a Chris Taylor, or you see a Bruce Springsteen, and you say, as a Jamaican, I like your music. And that's it. There's no worship. It just does not happen. Because every Jamaican believes, and they're probably right, that there but for the grace of luck, I would be you. You know, I am just as talented as you are. And that's one of the great things about Jamaicans. And also one of the most terrifying things as an artist. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
if they don't like you, you are going to know really quickly. And if they see you in a line or somewhere, and I mean, I remember I put out a track, and I was standing in line to go somewhere, and about 5 people came over to me and said, I don't like that new song. Terrible song, man. Worst song you ever do. Horrible, horrible
You will
song.
get that.
Yeah, I don't like that. Don't sing that on the show. Right? But at the same time, these people, once they love you, they will fight for you. I mean, literally, they will. In my worst moments as an artist, both as an actor and as a singer, it's the love of these people that kept me going. You know, because Chris and Nadirah and yourself, Alistair, we've all gone through that phase where you're trying to get there, you're not making any money, you can't pay your bills.
I still am.
But yeah, well, I mean, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So it's great. The thing about Jamaicans, to answer the question in truth, is that every Jamaican is a star, and every Jamaican sees themselves as a star. They are not ashamed or afraid of that fact. They know, and that has fed into this how stylish Jamaicans tend to be. Because you're right. We walk differently, we talk differently, we dress differently, we speak We don't speak like any other people in the Caribbean. And our culture has been assimilated across the globe. I mean, uh, I remember doing my first festival in Germany and seeing white dreadlocks, thousands of them, who fell in love with Rastafari because of Bob, which was fascinating to me as because I just started to travel at that point in my life. I was a teenager. So I just think what it is that Jamaicans think and know that we're not really an island, we're a continent. And every Jamaican is as big as the Queen. And that's why I think we're so passionate and loving, and because we have insecurities, but that's not one of the insecurities we have here. I don't know if that explains what I'm trying to say.
One word that you left out is humility. And
Yeah,
It's humility, yeah.
it's true. It's true. That's very true.
yeah,
That's true.
there's just something about expressing a confidence in that way, but with humility. And actually, that's because you understand that it's an attractive element about each other. So you feed off each other. You can see how that is something that does good for others, because there's nothing worse than feeling that there's nothing that you can do in life. And if you can feed from other people's confidence and you can take it with you, whatever it is, whether it's the way you look, the way you want to be perceived, at least you are grabbing something which is tangibly good, rather than aspiring to be something that you can't be.
Yeah.
And actually you don't need to be, and you shouldn't be, because it's superfluous. It doesn't matter. That's just a strange little image that somehow or other has a lot of following, but you don't need that.